Now, one thing I've been wanting to do with you is show you how to work out which colours you've got that are staining. My paints a minute. Don't do this anywhere near your watercolour surface. I don't want to wet the paper. I'm doing it so I can show you what I'm doing, okay? I'm going to wet that down my little spray bottle. They're about £1. That's all they are. Very, very cheap to buy. Now, what I'm actually going to do today, I'm going to test out my colours and find out which ones are staining. Because you know when we do our paintings, you've got to get your brush and remove the paint. You can't always take that paint off, can you? There are situations where it leaves a big stain underneath and it just will not lift no matter how hard you try. And then you start to damage the paper, which you don't want to do. So which colours stain and which don't? And this is what I'm going to do to test that out. And all I'm going to simply do is, well, paint the colours in all the different squares I've created here. I've actually got 2 spare squares down there as well. And that's because I overmeasured. Okay, don't laugh, I know. So I'm going to go for, let's go for the Gambo yellow first, or Gambo hue is what it's actually called, but I like to call it yellow. So I'm going to pop it into the little square there. I'm going to do this all the way along with my colours now. So I'm going to speed up with some music with that. Okay, I'll see what music I can find for you to listen to. Something quite easygoing, of course. And all the way through I'm going to do the same thing. And then when this is nice and dry, I'm going to try removing some paint and see which one stains the paper, or which ones stain the paper. Okay, back in a bit. Okay, right, there we go. Yes, this one, look at that, it's been a bit of a pain, that one, isn't it? I need to put a little bit of blue tack underneath that or something like that. Right, so now I want to give this a chance to dry. But as you can see actually, before it dries, you can see where some of the paint, like the cerulean blue and the raw umber especially, look, the way that the pigment is more granulated, so it's more larger pigments within this, so less of a kind of smoother paste if you wish. So therefore you get this kind of granulating effect. French ultramarine does that as well, but I've gone on fairly thickly with that one. So anyway, we'll give it a try and we'll see what it's like to kind of lift that paint off and see which ones tend to stain the paper. Okay, that's nice and dry, so let's see which one lifts and which one doesn't lift. Whoa. So we'll start off initially with the Gambo yellow. I'll do a few of these with you again, so you can see what it's like. So using my size 5 brush again, I'm going to take off probably 1/4 of this. See how much of that lifts off. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. And lift. Now that has lifted really, really well. So that to me is not a staining colour. So I can get back to just about, nearly, not quite, the white of the paper. Now you can use a stiffer bristled brush. That's not easy to say, you know, it really isn't. So something like one of my homemade lifting off brushes like this one here. And this is basically an acrylic brush, you know, for acrylic paints. But these are very cheap ones for about £1 for a set of 3 or something like that. Very, very cheap. All I've done is got a Stanley knife and just chiselled it down after flattening the end first of all. Now this will probably lift off a little bit more. So just put that brush down a minute on my other one. Just make sure it's nice and wet first with clean water, not dirty water or mucky as we call it up north. And you find, even by using the hard stuff like this, it's actually fine. It's not too bad, is it? It's got like a small yellow kind of hint to it. Now another way you can lift off paint is by using one of these sponges. This is called Dr. Power. But it's a magic sponge they call them, isn't it? You find them in a lot of shops. So the idea would be you'd wet one end. I'll just do this now. We'll try it on the lemon yellow. And that, just by dampening one end, you can just see the way it's coming off onto the sponge here, look. You can see, and that one's working quite well. So there you go, and you can see how much has come off on that tissue there between the two colours. So if I just wash that out a minute, so it's not just about clean, I can do the same again over this area here. Now, if I keep going and going and going, the paper will start to ruffle, it will start to lift, it will start to damage the paper surface. And I don't want to do that. You know, especially if you're working on a painting, you spend a lot of time doing thousands of lines of detail work, and then you've damaged the painting because, you know, you've gone mad with something like this. This works. You can cut it down as small as you want it to be. Just use small kind of pointy pieces. Really handy to have. Okay, let's carry on. I'm going to go for the cerulean blue, or cerulean blue. We'll try that one next. Now you can see straight away. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Fresh piece of tissue. And lift. That is not lifting off as nearly as easy as the yellows, which I've got there. So even with Dr. Power, we'll try that one. It's taken more off, but now I can start to just about make out the paper, just about lifting on there. So cerulean blue I find is a little bit of a staining blue, not severely, but a little bit of a staining blue. Then indigo, I'll do this one next, and then the rest of them I'll carry on, and I'll give you a recap of which ones are good and which ones are not so good as we go through the process. Ooh. Yeah, I'm not happy with that one either. Let's just try our stiff bristled brush. Try that. No, that's not shifting it either, is it? No. Okay, let's try the special sponge. Try that one next. No, that's barely even lifted it as well. So that one is also, that stains more than the cerulean blue. So it's a matter of just going through your paints, the way I'm doing mine at the moment, and seeing what results you get. And then at least you know that when you're working on your painting, you know which colour stains and which one doesn't. Especially if there's a colour that you think, actually, I might want to lift that colour off later on. Yeah, point taken. Which is another reason why when you're working on a painting, you start off light and you gradually get darker as you go along. At least that way around, if you do make some little mistakes along the way, well, you got a much better chance of correcting that mistake before going too dark with a pigment, especially when it's a staining colour. Right, I'm going to carry on. I've got some music for you. I'll see you right at the very end when I get right down to the bottom, and I can just quickly brief you on which ones stained and which ones didn't. So that'll give you some ideas on the staining. Yeah. So you can see when you go through all of these, through all the different colours I've got within my half pan selection here, the ones that stain the most. Now lemon yellow's fine, cerulean blue is pretty good. Slight hint of colour there, but that's nothing. Indigo, yeah, not too bad. A little bit, well, not quite as good as cerulean blue. Phthalo blue, however, you can see I'm really trying to lift that off. In fact, I've started to ripple the paper underneath. And when you start getting little bits of paper off, when you do the lifting off technique, it's time to stop because you're starting to damage that paper. So that one does stain phthalo blue. French ultramarine obviously stains, but not quite as severely as phthalo blue. But when you go through all these colours, you can see cadmium yellow works really well, olive green is fine, you know, raw sienna is really good, burnt sienna actually lift off quite well. But things like burnt umber, alizarin crimson is probably the worst one out of the bunch here for staining the paper. As you can see, I just couldn't lift that. I've tried really hard, and again I was at risk of damaging the paper. So do this with your own colours. See which ones tend to stay in the paper, just for more peace of mind really. So you know that if you want to use a colour which is going to be more translucent, more transparent, something that, for example, you want to use on a flower petal and kind of show the light showing through that petal, you might want to think about colours like the Opera Rose, Scarlet Lake, Cadmium Orange, which tend to, well, show the white of the paper through the paint more. Okay, so I'll give you some ideas on how I tend to test my paints for the staining ability. So until next time around, bye for now.